Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of February 27th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I understand bad weather is coming, so we're going to move this right along. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Before, Tim, you'd mentioned that you wanted to add or pull a...
Yeah, I would like to pull CC1, the revenues and expenditures.
So we'll include that as part of the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the submission of minutes of previous meetings, items A1 and 2.
Motion to approve A1 and A2.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item is item D1. This is the petition of Melissa Brady on behalf of Our Lady of Mount Carmel School, asking for a one-day dancing entertainment license for a comedy night to be held on April 5th. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator, fire chief, and police chief.
Motion to approve the one-day dancing and entertainment license for comedy night on April 5th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Is Melissa Brady here? No? Opportunity for a 30-second commercial. So, okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item D2 is for the Beverage Church Senior Center, requesting a bingo night for April 12th. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator, fire chief, and a late item from the police chief also recommending approval.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next item is item D3, and this is the petition of Susan Nerone for the 4th of July Committee, requesting the use of the Town Common basketball court for the annual block dance for the 4th of July Committee for June 15th, and also requesting police detail. There are recommendations provided by the Town Administrative Fire Chief, Director of Public Works, and a late item from the police and Parks and Recreation.
I'm shaking my head because we're already talking about the 4th of July again. It's amazing. So,
No.
what's this
Going
council's
fast.
pleasure?
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, item D4 is the petition of Burpee to Sebring, doing business at Bristol Oyster Bar, 448 Hope Street, request council consideration for transfer of Class BV intoxicating beverage license. This is to call for a public hearing to be held 1 month from today.
Motion to call for a public hearing.
There's a motion and a second to call for a public hearing on March 27th. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, hi, Pete.
How are you, Nate?
How are you? Did you want to share? I know we've motioned and seconded it already and approved it. Did you want to share anything?
Nope, just
No? Well, it's nice to see you, Pete.
Good to see you.
The next item is item G1A. This is the first in your public service appointment section. This is the Board of Tenants Affairs. There is a one unexpired term for the term ending in January 2020 and one in January 2021. You have two applicants, Carol Pouliot, who you did interview, and Richard Hunter, who you have not interviewed.
Lou, could you remind this council, did we hear back from Richard Hunter in regards to, I know that we obviously told him about the interview.
He did say that he was going to be attending that evening, and I did try to communicate with him again, and I didn't hear anything back.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that he still has interest, but we haven't been able to confirm that.
So I don't know what this council's pleasure is. Certainly we spoke with Carol, had a nice interview with her. Do we want to appoint Carol, or would we like to wait? We do a little bit farther down here, going to have to set up an interview for another open position. What's this council's thoughts?
There are two positions available, just so that
Thank you for that.
the council is aware.
So we can...
So there would still be an open position, is what your
Yes.
point is?
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I think that clears that up, then.
Well, then I'll make a motion to appoint Carol Poulit to fill the vacant position ending in 2021.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is Bristol County Water Authority. This is the unexpired term ending in February of 2021. You have 3 applicants: Robert Martin, 10 St. Anna Avenue, John McQuilkin of 126 Thames Street, and Harold Sawyer of 6 Glenview Drive.
Motion to appoint Robert Martin to the Bristol County Water Authority to the unexpired term ending in February 2021.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to, no, I think Bob will be a good addition. I just think that we had really good candidates,
Thank you
3
for
good
saying that.
candidates
Yeah.
for that in the interview. I think all of them were impressive, and they all brought something slightly different to the table. So thank them very much for applying.
I agree, Mary.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Councilwoman Perella said right there. I thought I was so impressed with both of these candidates, Bob and John McWilkin, Professor McWilkin, and I thought that, I hope that they will, whoever's appointed to this position or whoever's not appointed to this position will consider, volunteering for a position on another one of our commissions, so.
Good call, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Robert Martin used to
Definitely.
be our fire chief, as most of you know. John McQuilkin, and then also Harold Sawyer interviewed for that position. So we have a motion and a second to appoint Bob Martin to the BCWA open position. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is for the Conservation Commission. It's a 3-year term to expire in December of 2021. You have Lee Ann Freitas of 134 Bayview Avenue, who was interviewed and is interested in being appointed.
I move to appoint Lee to the position.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
In the Recreation Board, 3-year terms expiring in February of 2022, we have N. Diane Davis and Carl Antonovich, both currently serving, both seeking reappointment.
Motion to reappoint Diane Davis and Carl Antonovich.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Finally, we have the Commissioners of the Cemeteries. We have one unexpired term, for auxiliary member ending in January of 2023. You have a new applicant, Kathleen Moran of 87 Hopeworth Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we interview Kathleen for the position.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. As I always say at this part of it, thank you. Thank you for the efforts, time, and energy that boards and commission member, I see Diane Davis over there, so I'll talk to you directly. Thank you. And all the people that you represent, all the people that take time out of their lives and their day to make Bristol a better place. This council and this town appreciates it. Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item H1. This is continued from your February 6th meeting. This has to do with the Volkswagen Dieselgate Fund.
And this will not be continued anymore. I went to the Attorney General's office yesterday afternoon and had a discussion with Representative Marshall and 2 representatives from the Attorney General's office. What we're talking about is Dieselgate. Dieselgate, if you don't know what this was VW lying about the emissions coming out of their diesel cars and trucks, actually. And interestingly enough, the conversation included other manufacturers with similar issues out there and things that are probably going to be on the horizon for more issues, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what your mindset is, additional funds out there. So the funds, as Diane Williamson had pointed out in an earlier meeting, had been apportioned already. They primarily went over to East Providence. There are funds coming up probably in and around the area of a total of $1 million I have two gentlemen's names that will be reaching out to both the administrator and Diana, and they're going to CC me. I felt it most appropriate to go that direction, that any opportunities moving forward will be presented to the town. I shared that we have had a lot of success in the town of Bristol with grants. I'll give you an example of a most recent one. We're going to be doing a lot of work on the Prudence Island Ferry Dock, and with the hard work of a lot of people from this town, the administrator and Diane and a multitude of others, the harbor master, was, how much, Diane, again, $1.5 million? Am I right with that? $1.1 million. And to remind you, we had to do this work. So finding $1.1 million means that we don't have to raise the local taxes to complete this work. That's where this success is. The reason why I'm taking the time here is that when we saw money out there, we wanted to know that did we have an opportunity to go at it, and do we have an opportunity in the future? And the answer is we have an opportunity in the future, and they will make sure that they bring it to our attention when something comes to mind. So if I could get a motion to just receive and file with the information I just shared.
Motion to receive and file.
So moved. Second.
So you have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everyone.
The next item is item I-1. This is from the Harbor Master regarding the marina expansion report.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, how we doing? Got one more thing to give you guys. This is just, you want to pass it down?
Sure, no problem.
This is, I forgot to enclose the marina plans. I think most of you guys have seen this before.
So, Greg, if I may,
Yep.
our goal for this evening, as you can see, we've got some great examples of what the proposed marina is going to look like. The goal at the end of this conversation is to take the next step, and that next step would be to go for permits on that.
The next step would go for permitting.
So, from this discussion, that's hopefully, depending on what this council thinks, our next step would be to go for permitting.
So-
Please.
All right, so it's been a long few years, but I gave you guys a pretty extensive report, and if you guys have specific questions, please ask me. We decided the best way to go would be with the concrete float, similar to this picture here that's in your guys' packet as well. It's got a wave attenuator built into the bottom, and it'll withstand up to a 5-foot swell breaking through.
For the non-initiated, Greg, wave attenuator is?
The wave attenuator will stop the action of the waves going through the marina.
Thank you.
So it'll be calm on the inside, but still allow us to tie big boats up on the outside, possibly the high-speed ferry in the future. This is a 10-ton mooring block. This is what the manufacturer of this particular float recommends that we go with. There's a lot of pros and cons going with this. It is cheaper, but what it does allow to do is you get a longer life out of your concrete float. Instead of a pile in the center, where it'll be pitching and rolling and pinching on the pile, it'll causing the damage and cause damage to the rollers, and it could possibly fall crack the top of the concrete. This won't. There'll be about 50 of these in the water, pulling at all different angles. So a normal mooring would spin around in a circle. This one won't. All it will do is rise and fall with the tide.
So, Greg, if I may,
Yep.
I just want to kind of paraphrase, if I may. So,
30 years.
most docks have a telephone pole in the water, right? And we connect everything onto it. That would be instead of a telephone pole in the water, if you will.
So instead of that,
So instead of a pole sticking up and then walking on that dock around it, this would be holding it down and
holding it
by
down.
chains,
By
right?
chains. Just like a regular mooring, but better, because it'll allow the whole dock to move at once instead of the piles where you kind of pitch and roll into the pile.
So do you get longer life out of the chains? What's the maintenance on?
Save the Bay's had theirs in the water up in Providence now for about 4 years, and they've seen very small wear. So we first couple years we go on an annual chain inspection, and the only part of the chain that ever rots away and rusts is the part that lays on the bottom that goes up and down.
Okay.
And that's what they call the chafe section of your chain. That's the only spot that you're going to see significant wear and have to replace. And when you get to that point, you just disconnect the one, you cut it off, you reattach a new piece in there. You don't have to replace it. If the chain's 200 feet long, you're only going to replace probably 10, 15 feet of that chain. And it being as it's only going up and down and not spinning in a circle, it's not very abrasive. So it'll last a long time, but we'll have to do maintenance on it, we'll have to take a look at it, and get a rate that it's wearing. And then we'll have, you get it down to whatever the manufacturer says, and you replace that bit of chain. A lot cheaper than a pile. A steel pile, if we punched in an area, we're probably looking at a 50 to 60 foot pile.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you hope that we don't have issues with it underneath the bottom.
So it's a savings.
It'll be a big savings for the future.
Can I just ask you, so these go, where do they go? They go underneath?
They'll go down and angled out. So when you start looking through the what I just handed you, you'll see lines coming out. And I didn't print that picture out. But that's the chains to the mooring blocks at all different angles. It's probably 4 or 5 pages in. When it has the mooring detail.
So you don't have all the clutter of all the poles, but
You don't have
it's...
the clutter of the pole, so you get this nice clean look down there too. So you're not, the only piles that we'll have in the water will be in the center on the wooden docks, because that's the only way to do those. We're not going to put those on a mooring. So wood piles are pretty cheap though.
I mean, is this,
This would be the perimeter.
on the perimeter, this isn't like holding this down?
What's that?
It's not holding, that's going to hold boats, right? Or is that going to hold?
No,
the-
that'll
it's
hold
gonna
the dock
this, right?
itself,
It's gonna hold
right.
The dock
dock
itself,
down.
right?
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm...
Here's
Right.
a
So where is it?
better picture.
I'm
So
not gonna be able to
you can
drive
see
it
you
now,
can see the block. You've got the chain all laid out here. This the red part is they painted red. That's the chafe section that they believe that's what's going to be sitting on the bottom. So it's easier for a diver to go down and see a little bit of color than just a rotted chain, or not a rotted chain, but a rusted chain. So, but this is what they put up in Providence up to Save the Bay. So that's Save the Bay's dock.
You don't go like that.
They're way baffled. They're working on raising some more money to connect it to the main pier. I think that one's in there somewhere.
It is? Let me see that one.
This is down in Jamestown. Same system. They're a little exposed down there. And they haven't had any problems with this dock either. I talked to the harbor master.
So that's actually a great picture showing the lack of any kind of
Yeah. Yeah, no piles.
hole in the water
Yeah.
pile.
Real nice.
So do any Coast Guard stations use those? Nice.
Coast Guard stations have them, but, they're a little bit behind the technology times. We have one right here at this one. They're all on piles, because that's what they like to use. They don't want to really move forward with this type of design. But this is the Carolina Yacht Club, and they're most like us. They got about 5 to 7 miles of fetch area that the water. Sorry,
Thank you.
the length of the water that's not obstructed is fetch, and they're similar to us, so they get the same wave action. I had a lot of conversation with their dock master down there. They haven't had any problems. They've weathered 2 or 3 hurricanes since their installation in 2010. They get some wear on the chain, but they didn't. This past year's hurricane, they didn't pull the docks out. They the boats out of the docks. They just let them stay in there, which I would say you guys have 3 days to get them out. We're not going to leave them in the water, but they had pretty minimal damage, mostly just some tarps, and they had a little dock shack on there that got some damage, but it really takes a pounding. And this is up in Portland, Maine. Same thing, nice clean dock. This is the transition from the wood dock to the concrete dock. You don't want to marry both together, so they just put a little transition ramp in there. Power, water. We want to do low voltage security cameras. Anything we want to do out there has its own all separate conduit. There's little manholes in there that you can get in there and you can work on everything. And it's all rubber booted and flexible. So it is a good system. It'll do what we need it to do.
The conduits that you're talking about, do they go through the center, through holes in the center, or through the outside, the edge of the dock?
They go through the center.
I think you can see them on the truck.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh,
See on the
okay.
truck here?
Oh, all right.
These are all
Got it.
conduits. So, the only details we have left to kind of work out is some of the fire suppression details. You'll see in the packet, Par had called for cabinets. I've been speaking to the fire chief. He just wants standpipes that he can pull water from. He doesn't want to have to go out and maintenance. He'd rather throw the tower packs on his back, a couple hundred feet of hose, and hook into it.
So Greg, what you just said was have, in essence, fire hydrants out there that they can connect to, right? Okay.
Yes, with hoses already attached. I'm sorry. That's for the translation. 30 years of work for the government. So, this is a rendition that Par put together for us. Current Church Street Marina. Coming down south will be a wood pier system, all ADA accessible, with the ramp over to the concrete brake rudder on the outside. All these spots inside will be resident slips. They're all 30 feet. And then we have a 65-foot resident slip here, a handful more of resident slips, 5 transients, 30-foot slips, 6 transient 40-foot slips up in the corner, and the rest. So you're looking at a grand total of 60 transient slips, or 60 resident slips, 11 transient slips, plus the entire perimeter of the concrete for those big 100-footers, 150-footers that like to come up here and tie up on the outside with 100, 200 amp power on included out there. Or, like I said, possibly the ferry coming in.
So maybe you know or you don't know, but if you look at the older section, that older section is it is now protected by, or would be protected by the newer section, which means that not only do the new boats move much less, and as Greg pointed out, the docks themselves have very little motion to them. That'll translate to very little motion of the water around, very little motion to the boats that are that are in those slips. Which means less wear and tear on the docks, less wear and tear on the boats, all around a nicer way of doing business.
And it'll cut that wave action as far as this comes out, and it looks excessive, but when you go on the water, it's not that excessive. It'll cut it all the way up to the State Street dock. It'll take that wave action out. It's not going to do anything but the wind, but at least the waves will be gone.
Greg, on the slip size, can those be adjusted if we find ourselves not needing the 40-foot
No.
ones, or are they kind of standards, and we're going to...
They're standard. I mean,
Okay.
you,
All right.
you can't readjust.
You can't adjust those side or down,
No, but
okay.
I threw some ideas in those packets for you
Great.
guys to look at. Anybody, any questions
Well,
on this?
I think I read in here that it doesn't impact like the regular tide. It's only, you're talking about
No.
like storm surges
Storm
and things
surges
like
and
that.
stuff
But
like
I mean,
that.
it allows for the tide to come in and out so that you're not getting stagnant water in there.
No stagnant water. In Save the Bay, when we started this, Diane, was 2014 probably. They punched in the computer simulation all the way into the ground a picket fence, and it didn't affect how the tide flowed through through that part of the harbor. So, which is good. We have the parking on Prudence. We have the bathrooms in the Maritime Center. We've hit all CRMC's big requirements.
It's a good report that you guys,
Thank
that
you.
you did. It was really good.
Yeah, no, it's...
Very comprehensive.
Any other questions on the dock? All right, so we also put Par into putting in some type of a fuel pier. And as you saw in my report, we looked at all the areas, and the best place we found was the State Street. Putting the fuel tank, convol tank in the back corner. Nice similar fence to what's already existing going around the little condos there. Piping through the grass. It's all enclosed, convol, trench, a little shack, and the fuel pumps. And then hose reels that we'll build a 50-foot dock here with a brow down, and the larger boats can tie up on the out.
A brow down?
A ramp that you can have access to the pier. I'll figure this out eventually.
I'll keep you there, don't
It's
worry.
only been 5 years.
We're learning from you. Yeah, this is good.
I'm not speaking
Fetching, Brianna.
I'm speaking in Chinese.
No, you're not. You're okay.
Nah, you're good.
So, I am smarter than a 5th grader. Thanks, Diane. So, 50-foot floating pier. We could get the smaller boats in here. There's plenty of water. And like I said, the larger boats can tie up on the outside. And everybody's concerned environmentally. So I can tell you, 98% of the people take 5-gallon cans down to their boats, around their dinghies, out to their boat. We've all filled our gas. We all fill our lawnmower up in the yard. And sometimes you get a little too much in there and it spills. The benefit of this is it's a handle. You hand it to them. You tell them to put it inside. Then you turn the pump on, squeeze the handle. And when they're done, they tell you they release the handle and we bring the hose back up. You know, Sandwich, Massachusetts, they're in their town marina. They have a fueling station, and we're still trying to get information. Julie and I, but they're doing quite well. I don't want to quote numbers because we might be wrong, but the only advice they gave me was put a bigger tank in than you wanted because that's how much business you're going to start getting. The only fueling stations in the area are down on the island, and it's one of the number one questions that I get asked is, where do I get fuel? So this will not only help the residents, but it'll help with our transient population that's coming here. We project to come in. So,
It could bring in quite a bit of revenue as well.
quite possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question about the supplier. Do you have any sense who the fuel supplier will be?
I'm not sure. I don't.
Probably be part of the contract that we have on board to supply the town. We have to have the diesel and gasoline.
Okay.
So I would say it'd be an add-on to that.
Yeah.
Really not a big deal.
Because I noticed. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but I noticed that like in the event of a hurricane or something like that, that the contracted supplier will be the one that's charged with coming in and pumping out some of the fuel that they came to, that they've actually supplied. But I guess one of the things I worry about is if they, have contracts all over the place in the event of like a hurricane or something like that, they're going to be pretty much at capacity and having a difficult time to maybe get that fuel out of there. And so I guess one of the things that I'd like to think about is, making sure that we have a plan B in the case that they don't get here soon enough. Yeah.
If I could submit a potential option for a plan B, is we have a lot of road
Kevin,
vehicles.
could you grab the microphone?
Sure.
Thank you.
I would submit as a potential alternative, although we haven't looked into any of this, to put it down in the need to do so. We have a lot of vehicles in this town that get fuel on a daily basis, and we could do it internally for the most part.
I agree.
Large police fleet, fire, ambulance, and public works.
Okay.
So I would think that we could draw ourselves down pretty quickly, should we need to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And we'll know too. Traditionally we're hit September, October, right, with hurricanes. So we won't be putting, if it's a 6,000 gallon tank, we're not in September 15th. We're not going to throw 6,000 gallons in there. I'd rather have the guy come, once a week and put 1,500 gallons in or whatever, as we see what we're going to burn, and we'll know, after year 1 or 2, kind of where we're at and when we need to order fuel and when we don't. So we won't put 6,000 gallons in it. Now, I had one at the Coast Guard Pier, weathered a few tropical storms and hurricanes prior to that. These convol tanks are built for this. It's got the internal bladder and then another bladder inside of it. So they do hold up well in the storm. And you shut the valve. Pump the line down, which is easy to do.
And so, Greg, it would be one pump, so it'd be one boat at a time, or we're going to have multi?
There'll be one gas pump, one diesel
gas pump. Okay.
You could do. Yeah, I think that's plenty. Most marinas don't have multiple gas and diesel pumps. One each is plenty.
Will be sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll be equipped for cashless.
Oh yeah, we'll figure all that out. We have power over there.
Good.
Almost. This close.
Almost.
We own the meter and we have conduit.
So go ahead.
So that's all I got. Unless you guys have some other questions.
So included in our packet, and Julie, maybe you could speak to this, is talking about the dollars in regards to this. Just to remind everybody, this was a ballot question going back a few years. And yeah, I did say a few years ago. You can see the immense amount of work and efforts that it took to get to this point, and this was not by any mistake. In fact, some of these opportunities presented themselves because some time had gone by, and if it works, if we're trying to make it work this year and it only works this year, then it won't work next year. So it's okay that it took this time, because the end result is going to be an excellent product. And it's my belief, and I believe it's the council's belief, that this should be self-sufficient, meaning the rates that should be reasonable, they should be attractive on everything, but yet have it pay for itself. And have it to be neutral is the worst-case scenario, and have it revenue positive reasonably is the goal that we want to achieve. So, Julie, could you speak to that and what the numbers are?
Sure. This would probably be a great workshop as we get closer and we're under construction, because we could probably talk for quite a while about all the components. So just very quickly, though, Greg and I have worked for over the last couple of years quite a few times, just sitting down and tearing this apart and taking into consideration every single thing we can come up with, and all of the projections we've come up with have resulted in positives for us. So I have not seen a loss in any of the projections we're doing, and that includes setting money aside for capital improvements, setting aside a portion for allocation back to the general fund for overhead costs. We talked about setting up an enterprise fund and having that be like a waterfront district fund, so that potentially revenues coming off of this, and none of our calculations even factored in fuel revenue. So that would be over and above everything that we've been looking at. So definitely revenue positive in every way that we've been running it. I think it's an opportunity to bring that money back into the waterfront as well, potentially up to Independence Park maybe, and we'll define that a little bit more as we get further along in the plans. But
So another point to be made is that the fuel dock is a direct producer of income. It's also a large indirect producer of income, because it's going to bring people to town. If you have a boat, or if you've ever been on a boat, everybody knows you have to put gas in it. I've got an old sailboat with a 3-cylinder diesel motor in it, and I'm one of those guys that brings the 5-gallon bucket out into the... That's me. It's about how much I use for the
No
season,
spilling,
too.
though.
I don't spill it. So it brings people in, and when people are in, they look for other opportunities, whether it's going to our shops, our restaurants, or just experiencing our community. It also, and Greg pointed this out earlier, was there's a multitude of transient spaces. Transient spaces aren't necessarily for the person that comes from New York. It could be for the person who comes from the Kickamuit River and wants to spend overnight in downtown. That same Bristol resident, the resident that lives over there that wants to bring their boat around here and enjoy downtown, stay overnight, stay a couple of days. So the benefits are direct by the sale of all of this, and then obviously the indirect of more business downtown, more experience downtown, more exposure to the town, bringing that much more potentially people moving here and spending more money downtown, which of course affects our tax rate. So,
Greg or Julie, I just have a quick question on insurance in regards to a big boat direct hit on a dock like that, doing a lot of damage. I want to say we're completely covered, but I don't want to assume that we would be completely covered, correct?
Julie reached out to the insurance company a while back, and the answer is, easily yes.
Okay, good.
They'll insure the break wall,
Great.
the concrete floats, the floating docks, all that stuff.
Good. Peace of mind.
Tony?
Well, as the saying goes, build and they'll come. Well, that is true. They will come, as the chairman already pointed out, with the additional transient docks. Folks from East Providence and a couple areas nearby, they've always wanted to come here and dine. They wanted to come by boat, not by car, and obviously we'll be able to provide that. The other piece is build and they'll come. Well, no, build and they are here, and certainly will make quite a few of the folks very happy. They've been on the waiting list for quite a few years. So, that being said, I know it has taken quite a bit of time, but let's look at the positive. We are here, we're moving forward, and doing the permitting and, and continue progress. So, looking forward to it. Thank you for the report and all the work, Diane and Greg and the administrator as well. Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Just, no other questions, just
Please.
more of a comment,
Please.
an opinion. Again, Greg, thank you so much. This report was excellent. Pictures did a really great job. And it's really exciting to see this kicking off, you know. The total revenues for transient docks and moorings have been going up considerably every year. So it's definitely a great sign that this economic engine wants to take off. So I'm definitely in support of moving forward with the permitting. But thank you.
Tim, I'm going to take that as a motion.
All right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion and a second. Greg, before we take a vote on this, could you make available that some or all of those pictures that you just shared with us? Maybe, Chris, you could put it on our website so our residents can see what we're, obviously we have pictures here, but to go back and look at it again?
Sure, I'm all digital. We can get them on try to get them on by the end of the week.
Spectacular. Okay.
I would even suggest maybe a possibility of displaying some here in the town hall,
That's an
if that's a
excellent-
possibility with
that's an
some of the
excellent
things.
And maybe down with you, Greg.
Yeah. I have extra sets of these, so I can make more.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to take the next step and go out permitting for all that you've seen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
We don't normally get applause for
Yeah, right.
Dear Diary.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item I-2. This is correspondence from FEMA regarding some map revisions. You do have correspondence from the Director of Community Development. I believe she suggests receive and file.
Diane, what the clerk just pointed out and the next item are
Yes.
together, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's basically a change in jurisdiction on the mapping. The area mapped as a coastal resource barrier system in Bristol won't change. The agency who's mapping it will. FEMA used to map it as a courtesy. Now it will be mapped by Fish and Wildlife. So it's really just informing the town of this change in the jurisdiction. There's no other changes. So that's why I recommended a receive and file.
Are there any
Well-
questions?
No. Motion to receive and file?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
For both I-2 and 3, correct?
Yes, sir. Both I-2 and 3.
Thank you. The next item, I-4, is the annual invitation requesting that your honorable body participate in the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade in Newport to be held on March 16th.
Thank you to the City of Newport for this wonderful invitation. Motion to receive and file?
Second.
There's a motion and a second with thanks. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, you have an application coming to you from the Coastal Resources Management Council regarding the application of Paul and Bettina Killian of 135 Ferry Road. The comment deadline is March 1st. You have recommendation from the town administrator and harbor master.
It would just be to receive and file, correct? Could I have a motion to that effect?
Motion to receive and file?
Oh, Steve said that your recommendation is that we approve it. We need to approve it?
To approve?
No, you don't have to approve it. You just don't
We're
comment.
not going to comment on it, right?
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just want to say that it looked like from the recommendation there was going to be no impact on the safe navigation or mooring in the area. So it looks like it's going to have zero impact, which is good.
I agree. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is from the Public Works Director. This is his request, as noted in the discussions about the capital budget, was to allow the opportunity to order some trucks that have a long lead time.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Second?
So there's a motion and a second to approve. Just 2 seconds of information. Director McBride, would you share what, we know what it is, but if you could share it for the public, please.
Right. This is in our effort to go to full automation for both trash and recycling. Last year, we ordered two fully automated trucks. They're in the works right now. The lead time to manufacture those is anywhere between 12, 14, 16 months. So all I'm asking the council for is permission to go ahead and order those with the manufacturer to get those in the pipeline. We won't see them until latter part of this coming fiscal year, FY20, so it won't be an expenditure this year. It'll be in the capital budget as proposed and laid out. All I'm asking for is authorization to go ahead and order those.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Director.
The next item is bid 900. This is for an outdoor emergency shower system. We have one bid from Hart Engineering of Cumberland, Rhode Island, in the amount of $26,000.
I make a motion to
Sure.
refer this to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Is there a
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
May I?
Oh, of
Before
course
we
you
motion-
can.
Okay.
Of course.
I would just, ask the administrator if there's any way to negotiate anything since they're the only bidder,
Work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second to refer to the administrator. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the periodic report from the Bristol County Water Authority provided by Bill Gosselin, one of the Warren directors.
Motion to receive and file?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive and file. Any discussion?
Yeah, it looks like there was a rate increase, possibly a rate increase of 4.5%. Looks like they're going to have there was a public hearing on it, but I think it went forward. So,
Maybe Bob Martin can get involved in that as
Right.
yeah.
one of his first
Yeah,
things
you
that
know
he looks at.
You know
right?
me and those rate increases.
Yeah, no, I feel your pain. So you have a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next two items are executive session matters. Following that, did you wish to do the
Thank you.
the CC1 now or after the prerogatives?
Now, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is the revenue and expenditure report as provided by the treasurer, item CC1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Cook. On the revenues and expenditure statement, during budget season, we go through, we see what the town administrator wants, what we used last year, and then what we decide on what the town council wants to add to that line item, so particularly clothing or anything else. But Julie, I was looking at some of the revenues and expenditures, and I noticed that some of those percentages go over. And I was wondering maybe if we could, coming up for budget, we could add an asterisk, or just so my colleagues know that, hey, listen, for example, last night concert series, we went over by 162% of, what we had budgeted. So I'm just thinking, if we're getting to that item during the budget season, should we just increase it to make it more realistic? Because I've noticed over the last couple of years, we just tend to go over it and over it, over it. So instead of just going over it every year, why don't we just realistically put a good budget in there for it?
That one in
I don't know what you
particular,
think.
the last night concert series, I think we've tried different ways of fundraising for that in the hopes that we wouldn't be overspent. But at some point, you're right, we need to maybe just acknowledge that it's more expensive than we'd like it to be, and the fundraising's just not there. So Steve and I have been talking about that a lot, actually, this year, and we've been meeting all last week and this week on with the different departments. And so what I can certainly do is maybe ahead of each department's meeting, I could bring up, which accounts are sort of our troublesome accounts, and we can talk about what we've done already to tackle those, and then if the council has, additional questions and discussion.
That'd be great.
I don't want to, inundate the document with all kinds of asterisks. You'll see a lot of them
Sure.
this year anyway. So, but we'll come up with a good way to maybe point those out in like the introduction to each department.
That's
If that
perfect,
works.
yeah.
that's good.
That'd be just nice to know that. Yep,
Excellent idea.
thank you.
So we just need to receive and file on that.
Councilman Sweeney, just to correct the record, it wasn't just the last couple of years. This has been an ongoing for many, many years.
Right.
We're doing the best we can.
Ever since it started.
I know, I know you are. You guys doing a great job.
And
Just
we've been increasing for many, many years, long before Steve. We've been trying, snow and ice is another classic line item that we've been creeping up every year, and sometimes we get close and then we overspend again, and it's one of those you just don't know. But we do have been making an effort, and most of you have been here to see that over
Right.
last many years to get those lines up. And most,
Well-
and a lot of success there, too, so.
Yeah, well, thank you both. I appreciate they doing that. Motion to receive and file, Chairman.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
So now we are back to the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So in an effort to continually make this a shorter portion, couple of things. First, congratulations to Jaden Sullivan and Mark Tavares, both recent Eagle Scouts. One of my favorite events to go to, and it's always well attended by family, always well attended by representation from the town, and it is an impressive thing to know what it takes to be an Eagle Scout and what it says about those young men moving forward. So congratulations to them. There's a couple more coming up, and we'll give congratulations to them when that comes around. March 5th, Tuesday, is District 68 election. It doesn't matter to me who your candidate is, just go out and vote. It is extremely important. It continues to be important. It's not just there, not just District 68, voting in general. Get out there, get your voice heard, and be informed and vote, please, if you live in District 68. And I'm sure the clerk was probably going to point out a few things. Please.
If I may,
Of course you can.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, just for everyone's information, we've tried to spread this around. There will be only one polling place in Bristol. There are 4 precincts that will be voting in that one polling place. So if you normally vote in the Burnside building, the Mount Hope High School, or the Rockwell School, you will vote at the Quinta Gamelin Recreation Building on Asylum Road. That's in Colt State Park. That's where the Recreation Department is, in that one place. So all of those 4 polls will be combined. If you vote in any one of the other polling places in Bristol, that's District 69, so you will not be voting on that day. If anybody is not sure about where they belong, where they should be voting, they should call the office. I would also point out, too, is that we are now in the emergency voting period, so if anyone cannot go and vote on the 5th or would prefer not to go on the 5th, they can come now to the town hall tomorrow, Friday, and Monday, and they may vote here. So again, if you have questions, you can call the Board of Canvassers. The phone number here is 401-253-7000, okay? Or certainly consult our website. There will be other links. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. March 18th, March 19th, March 20th, March 21st are budget workshops for the town. Want to know how your money is being spent? Please attend, come down, listen to what we talk about. Vice Chair Sweeney brought up last night. That is one of hundreds of items that we talk about. I'm going to say this at that part, but I know there's an immense amount of work from the administrator, from the treasurer, and from the departments and department heads. This council appreciates it. The town appreciates it. We put a lot of effort and energy to spend as little as possible to get the most possible. And that comes through with what's put in front of us, and then ultimately what this council approves at the end. So please take the time. Also, March 13th and March 20th, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. March 13th and March 26th is the JFC, Joint Finance Committee. Again, that is the committee made up of this council and the administrator for the Bristol side, and Warren representation for the school budget. The 13th will be the presentation to the Joint Finance Committee. That's the Wednesday. And then the 26th will be the conversation and then the vote on that budget. So if you're interested in that, those will both be at the high school, so the 13th and the 26th at the high school cafeteria. That's a lot of money. That represents over 50% of the budget for Bristol. So that affects us, as you can tell, immensely, and it should, because it's really important, because education is immensely important. So come down, spend some time with us, see what we're doing with this, see how we're spending your money, and it's always an open dialogue. So we're happy. If you got a question about something in particular, we will answer those questions. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes. So as you all know, that the Rhode Island landfill tipping fees keep climbing. They've gone from $39.50 per ton in 2017, 2018. They're now rising to $47 a ton, so the tipping fees continue to go because we all know that landfill is getting ready. It will close eventually. So Councilman Lay and myself and the chairman of the Conservation Committee, Tony Moratini, Lindsey Green, and the new conservation candidate that was just appointed tonight, Leanne, we met with Clean Water Ocean Access, David McLaughlin, to talk about composting. And the reason we're talking about composting is that usually 40% of the organics that are in your trash can be composted, which is a lot of weight that can come out of the trash and save us a lot of tax dollars and be greener. So I just want to let my colleagues know, that we're going to be looking into this. We're going to be looking at different options to hopefully save us tax dollars. Welcome to have everybody on board. If you're watching out there and you're interested in getting involved, reach out to us. Anybody out here? We are looking for ways to improve and save tax dollars and be a little bit greener. So, thank you.
Mr. Texera.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I already mentioned the Eagle Scouts, which is always a wonderful event to attend, and so congratulations to Jaron and Mark. The other is to the other spectrum. I had the opportunity to attend a birthday party today of no more, no less than a 105-year-old Genevieve Marslick. She had an event at the Bristol House of Pizza. Tula and Greg were very gracious to provide a nice spread of her favorite foods. That includes French fries, onion rings, pizza.
She can eat anything she wants.
Yes. Yeah,
good for her.
So it was a great event, very well attended by family and friends. She still reads her 5 to 6 books a week. Friday is library day and so forth. So it's a great pleasure. And my wife actually has the pleasure and honor to spend some time with her 4 days a week for 3 hours each day. So congratulations to Jan. I know she's not watching. 6:30 she has her ice cream bedtime. But
it's working. She's 105, right?
That's her secret, is to have her bowl of ice cream before going to bed.
Good for her.
So to Genevieve Marslick, congratulations and happy birthday, and God bless. Thank you.
Ms. Perella.
Wow, congratulations to Ms. Marslick. That's amazing.
It sure
and,
is.
And the fact that she lives on her own.
Yes.
And I think up until maybe to what, 99, maybe she was driving?
101.
101, okay. Still active. I mean, it's very congratulations. It's wonderful.
Was
no,
it?
At 101, no.
101. Nuts.
And actually, she's been down. I think you guys have all met her. She's been here for our Christmas party sometimes. I had a quick question. I'm glad you're here, Kevin. I want to say it was probably in December that we passed like one of the handicap, approved one of the handicap spaces on Constitution Street. And I've gone by there a couple of times. I've not gotten any complaints, but I've not seen, it's not put up yet, the sign that this is like handicap. Is that because of the weather or?
The sign, as long as we get the ordinance down through the clerk's office, that it's been recorded and whatnot, it's on file, that's when we execute installation of the sign. So the sign should be up, if that's in fact done, but the painting of the spot won't be done until the spring.
I don't see the
So
sign.
I'll have to check on that. And I know which one you're referring to because I look at all of them when they come through, so
Yeah.
I'll check into that.
Because I go by there to check it out, and I mean, I'm not 100% sure, like, in the general area. I know where it is. I'm not 100% sure exactly which house. But I look all the time for it, and then I asked someone who lives, one of the person's neighbors, if it was up the other day, and it's not. And I couldn't understand that. So glad I could bring that up for you. And I think that's pretty much all that I have at the moment. Just a lot of meetings coming up and a lot of activities going on with St. Patrick's Day and other things like that. And certainly getting out and vote, all elections are important. This is a very important election for the House District. That's my House District where I live, and I'm finally glad that I got some information. I've got only one person's come to my door and left anything. Today I had a couple of mailers. I was very happy that I wasn't being excluded for some reason, so they can make my informed choice. Thank you.
Mr. Lay.
get out there and vote on Tuesday, right? When I was driving to work today, I discovered that the east side of town is going to look a little bit different come April. And that's because there's going to be 2 large cooling towers that are in Somerset, Massachusetts, that should be coming down. So that's the Brayton Point power plant. And for some of you who know, they constructed the cooling towers because before they had the cooling towers, they were using 1 billion gallons of water per day to actually cool down the power plant over there. But there was never really a plan to take them down once the plant became decommissioned. And so on April 27th, things are hopefully going to look a little bit different in Bristol, especially on the east side of town overlooking that Mount Hope Bay. I know that there's a lot of residents out there. I remember when I was knocking on doors, running for office, I remember going to Viking Drive to some of the houses out there and going on the back decks where they had to oversee these cooling towers. And the reason why I bring it up is because I think that it would be good for there to be a regional conversation about maybe what happens over there, because for a very long time, a lot of the residents had to endure the sight of them, and then in addition to that, sometimes depressed property values when they were perhaps trying to sell their homes. And so hopefully, that's the type of thing that we can get in on at some point. So part and parcel to what Councilman Sweeney was talking about. He had talked a little bit about the composting and reducing our tipping fees and everything like that, and then the decision we made today to move forward on the automated trucks will be a way of helping out with that a little bit. Hopefully we can get some of these recycling carts and trash carts so that I know a lot of you have probably been chasing down your 22-gallon recycling bins if you're anything like me, with those high winds and everything like that, and you kind of see some trash kind of roaming around on the streets and everything. So hopefully once we kind of move forward with the carts and everything like that, we might have a little bit less of that, a little bit less rain and snow and things like that getting into the bins, fewer animals getting into the bins, less rainwater going through the bins and ending up in our stormwater systems. And so I really got to give a lot of credit here for the town administrator and our director of public works for being ahead on that. So thank you, guys.
Town administrator agenda items.
Thank you. I'd first like to congratulate our own Manny Coria for his future induction into the Words Unlimited Hall of Fame. Represents success throughout his entire career as a sports writer, so I know he's very excited about that. Tickets are still available March 10th. Manny knows how to get the tickets, so reach out to him. And the last thing I have is there is a parking ban tonight beginning at 10 p.m. As you can see, it's snowing, and we'll try to get that lifted as soon as possible. That's all I have. Good night.
We can't see it snowing.
Just listen.
I saw it on the police officers.
I would request a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, litigation regarding case number PC 2009-5800, Richard and Dawn Morrison versus Bristol Zoning Board and Bristol Land Conservation Trust, and also case number PB 2019-1032, Town of Bristol versus Mosaico Business and Community Development Corporation, and remain in executive session under Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A5 regarding acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.